staying. Got about half an hour left. I'll try to make it quick, leave some time for John. My name is Greg Ferrara. I am a program manager at ITRI, the Institute for Transportation Research and Education at NC State University. I'm actually going to be presenting to you this rather long title. I decided to not go ahead and repeat it, but I'll just let the presentation speak for itself. What you're about to witness is a distracted driver causing a crash. Did you see that? It was very close. I'll replay it again for the sake of time. Very early on, and if you caught it, Alina was looking at Daddy.
Did you have your children stage that?
No, I just happened to.
Blur out their faces too.
Yeah.
But they had helmets on, so.
They did.
Yeah.
Yes, it was good.
We see your priority was
Offender
being on film.
Child abuse.
Well, as difficult as this may be to conceive, risky driver behavior, such as the one you just saw, it actually cascades out to other vehicle types besides bicycles, passenger vehicles as well as trucks. In fact, these are leading causes of truck crashes or critical reasons for truck crashes. Truck crashes are actually a very small part of the overall crash percentage of 3%, but if you get in a wreck with a crash, wreck with a truck, your chances of it being fatal skyrocket. And because most trucks involved actually have more than one vehicle in a crash with a truck, and because of this, the cars are those other types. Passenger vehicles are other types of vehicles that are involved with a truck, and they are the critical reasons most of the time for a truck crash. If it's a fatal crash, that actually goes up to 75%, more or less. These are varying stats from varying sources, fluctuates, but it's about that. And of course, to mitigate this problem, obvious, like any complex problem, requires complex solutions. Education, enforcement, and engineering are the three big ones. In North Carolina, we have a motor carrier enforcement program, as Michael Van Daneker stated. Every state does have such a program, and they're actually administered under different umbrellas within the states. In North Carolina, that's administered by the North Carolina State Highway Patrol, or it's called MCE. They're actually responsible for enforcing the safety and weight regulations in the state. MCE is geographically spread out across a large area in North Carolina and is comprised of only a small portion of the Highway Patrol, so a lot on their plate. And these geographic areas are called troops. They're multi-county areas and are actually quite large in North Carolina. The motor carrier enforcement program is split up into two sections: CMV safety, where the troopers are really required to enforce and regulate and really bring down and drive down truck fatalities. And they also have to and are really charged with protecting the road infrastructure. These basically the states have measurable goals and objectives that are set forth by the funding sponsors, the federal government agencies. On the safety side, it's FMCSA, and on the weight side, FHWA, through joint agreements between the state and the feds. And where really the feds are really interested in outcomes are king. These performance-based funding models are really becoming the norm now, with FMCSA already having those in place on the safety side, and the weight side, FHWA, coming into play with MAP 21. And really, the states really have a good driving force for this, because as performance-based funding models, the option to kind of pull back that funding does exist and has been a reality in some cases. As I said, my name is Greg Ferrara, work at NC State University at ITRI. ITRI is the university partner with the North Carolina State Highway Patrol. We've been providing technical support and program evaluation support to that program, the MCE program, since 2001 on the safety side, on the motor carrier, on the FHWA weight side since about 2007. We operate the Commercial Vehicle Enforcement Resource Lab. It is an actual North Carolina-based, at the moment, resource for the North Carolina State Highway Patrol. Our mission is to increase enforcement effectiveness through decision support technologies, data analysis, research, and education. And we've really taken the approach of driving enforcement down to the troop level. These individual troops are all uniquely different. They've got individual different geographies, industries in every troop, and collectively they're all responsible for their part of the collective state responsibility of that performance, because the state is responsible for those performance-based. So we've really tackled that at the troop level and really going to that in that direction. This kind of really is a matter of going beyond just counting the number of crashes that occurred in your troop or the number of enforcement activities, and kind of the driving force behind this is to work smarter and not harder. And that really kind of brings you to, and really our role is to try to engage the troopers, the troop supervisors, that's our target audience, the middle managers, if you will, in these business units, to look at data relationships. Where are we enforcing versus where should we be enforcing, or how should we be enforcing? Are we targeting the right areas and the right activities? To that end, for the past year, we've started to develop a sort of an analytic platform called COVERLAB Analytics. This platform, we're in sort of version 1.0 right now. We've begun that, got troop feedback, and are actually involved with rolling out 2.0 at the moment. So I'm going to show you real briefly what our 1.0 looks like and how we kind of how the troops are actually using this at that level. The first part is, hey, how am I doing in my troop? How am I performing against those measurable goals and objectives that the state's responsible for? So we provide the troops their own individual scorecard. They've got their own login for tracking those performance measures that are set forth in the enforcement plans. We provide them with clickable, deep dynamic reports that they can report out to the state quarterly, and we even augment and use some of these reports to help the state level report out to the feds. And then secondly, where they're underperforming, we actually help them improve or prioritize and improve their performance by providing interactive visualization dashboards for context, trends and patterns, and then we've developed a map analytic platform called Vantage to have them interactively filter their crashes and enforcement and reference layers that we've developed with charts, graphs, and maps, tables all in one view, so to speak. So here's a quick example. If a trooper were to log in, troop supervisor were to log in, he might see his or the state level performance on any given performance metric. In this particular case, I'm not sure, I guess we're lucky today where we have a very large screen. Over here, the metric is reduce rural CMV crashes to 2% or less as a state level. So here's the goal. This particular troop is not doing so great, Troop B, and they are at actually 3.57%. So it's kind of incumbent upon them to start looking at how they might improve this, what's going on. They may or may not be able to make a difference, but at least providing them with these data interactively can start that process going. So a quick example of a dashboard. They can kind of look at the trends overall, which are in the blue for overall crash counts, overlaid as an example with the percent of rural fatal crashes and the percent of fatal crashes. In this case, looks like there's a little bit of a spike in, say, January, as for context. And then, kind of looking at map analytics to kind of see what's happening in their troop. Quickly at the top, choose their troop, choose time period, and then rural fatal crashes as an example. In this case, I've turned it on. I've actually not shown the points, the actual points themselves, but you can click heat map to see where those are. In this particular case, most of them happen to be here, just as a kind of visual sweep of what's going on generally. And you can kind of see as a quick, by default, dashboard view, if you will, or graph view. We've kind of put up crashes by hour of day. You can take a look at contributing circumstances by default, which is what the troop supervisors have indicated they've wanted. Quickly select any of these other ones if you wanted to change that. We've actually are now implementing, and with version 2.0, what you just saw with Michael Van Daneker's presentation, which was what we're calling a heat grid. You know, that sort of XY heat grid with hot colors in the middle where stuff is, putting that down here. So we're actually going in that direction as well. And if we kind of go a step further, we have the sort of operational layers here, select crashes, citations, or inspections, and we can kind of click on what's happening with our citations. In this case, I've again turned off the individual points rather than be clouded with that point cloud. Here we got all the citations, how many of them are mapped, and how many of them are actually in clusters. Again, they're kind of hovering around the way stations and up near Fayetteville. There might be a reason why they're not here that we're unaware of. Maybe it's inhospitable areas for conducting inspections or issuing citations or something like that. Or maybe they just don't know what's going on with that particular area of crashes. Again, crashes by time of day relative to citations by time of day sort of have a slight difference in time period between the two. If we were to align this along with the locations, perhaps you can start to make some headway along with that. Again, citations don't necessarily, cannot necessarily be tied exactly to the crashes, but at least getting them in the ballpark is a start. Again, inspections, motor carrier enforcement actually can do inspections, pull over vehicles, as Michael was saying, inspect them without probable cause. They can just say, hey, I'm going to pull you over, I'm going to inspect you. The citations that they issue them are civil citations, and here they are. Here's what's happening for citations, for inspections as well, and we again see a similar pattern, not quite aligned. Another application for Vantage, this is kind of like the advanced version that we've got. General question, which loggers are cited the most statewide, and where are they? And quickly look at a count of those. Here it is. Answer a question very quickly if somebody were to ask that. Motor carrier enforcement, troop supervisors and troops themselves, the federal government, FMCSA in particular, puts a big burden, I should say that quietly here, on the states themselves. They actually require them to reduce crashes within municipalities, even though they typically don't patrol there and are not part of their normal jurisdictional domain. So they actually conduct outreach events in cities themselves to drive those truck crashes down as much as they can in the cities. In this particular case, as an example, they might be able to use this for some of those outreach activities. In this case, the city of Fayetteville. Quickly choose fatal and injury crashes, KAs and Bs, heat map it, and quickly show, hey, what's going on with the contributing circumstance as the first contributing circumstance. Disregarded traffic signals, number one, might be able to reach out, maybe even give the actual municipalities themselves access to this. But we haven't gone there yet. In addition to that, sort of a third and final example is one of the other metrics that the Motor Carrier Enforcement Unit is responsible for is conducting a certain number of inspections. Just how am I doing on a number of inspections that I've been required to do by troop. Here's the dashboard, scorecard on this side, and over here, inspections out of service. And what that is out of all the inspections that I've conducted in my troop, how many of those were put out of service? How many did I actually pull off the road because of some safety reason or driver violation that was so egregious, they said, hey, you're not going anywhere. And in this case, this case, a quick summary of year to date. There you go. The lower the number is actually worse. In this case, Troop F is at 9.4%. And if that troop supervisor wanted to kind of drill down, they could do that. Again, quickly look at a dashboard and see general trends over my inspections over time. In this particular case, this is an out-of-service dashboard here. Take a look at who is actually underperforming in that regard. In other words, pulling over trucks and doing an inspection, but no violation that resulted in out of service. That did not happen. In other words, pulling over Walmart trucks, for example, great safety record. Not to say that they wouldn't be pulled out of service occasionally, but they may not be the highest of risk for that. By right-clicking on a decomposition tree, quickly take a look at the top individual troopers themselves by number. In this particular case, that's their actual trooper ID number. That's the number of inspections that they've conducted that did not result in an out-of-service citation. And in this particular case, you can choose any number of different variables to kind of drill down by. I've chosen carrier to see who are those carriers that particular trooper is pulling over. UPS as the top dog. And I can kind of look at, well, where is that trooper conducting his inspection activities? In this particular case, he's kind of hovering around the weigh station. Perhaps there's easy pickings around there. I can sort of sit there and get some quick inspections, get my quota done. And I'm mostly doing that on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I'm also over here doing that in the middle of the week. So that's a quick overview of where we stand right now. We've released the first version. We're actively working on implementing feedback we've heard from the troop supervisors, and we are working on putting that into version 2.0 at the moment. And that is scheduled for release in April 2014. We usually attempt to coincide this with a yearly conference that the actual state-level motor carrier enforcement group has within their own group. Everybody gets together, all the troops, once a year, and we bring in speakers in a micro conference similar to this, and actually use it as an opportunity to conduct workshops and hear what they have to say and kind of feedback, and give them information that we have. So I think I'm hopefully right on time, maybe leave a minute or so for comments. We are actually, lastly, adding a size and weight scorecard because of MAP 21 requirements are coming down the pike. We're kind of a little bit ahead of that to some degree, and it hasn't quite hit yet, but we are one of 3 active participants in an FMCSA study. One of 3 states actively participating in an FMCSA study to look at the relationship between weight and safety, as well as the national efforts to increase the weight limits for our federally funded road infrastructure. And I guess we have, lastly, just some quick challenges. We need help on adoption measures. How do we actually know whether what we're doing is actually being effectively used? I know we can measure how much they're logging in, but is it actually changing their behaviors in the field? We know that they perceive that there is value for this. It looks great, sounds great. If you were to look at this and kind of intuitively, it seems like it makes sense to, once you provide data to those troops, but is it actually having an effect? And that's what we kind of want to get that baseline to start with and measure that. And we have not gone there yet. We hope to do that and start that in April when we release version 2.0. All right, that concludes my presentation. Thank you very much. I'll be willing to entertain questions. We'll have to give a little bit of time for John.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I guess this slide mostly answered my question. It was about what performance-based measurement or improvements have you implemented based on what you've, and it seems like that's the next step.
That is, yes.
And when I looked at your data, number one, like I said, you know, the disregarded traffic signals in those inner city areas. And one of those that I'm seeing, we can see out here as you go onto the 405, is that trucks like trains cannot stop in the time, in that dilemma zone cycle to meet the red, right? So one of the things that the traffic signal controller could be utilizing would be like, as we're seeing on those, like from the virtual way station, there's piezos that will give the information of the weight and the speed of the truck as it's moving into that dilemma zone to either extend the yellow
Yeah.
or allow the green, because, you know,
Yeah.
the trucks are, you know, so heavy that they just can't stop in time. But right now, the signals are timed basically for a passenger vehicle, right? And the trucks can't meet the passenger vehicle dilemma zone criteria.
Yeah, that's a great point, you know, making the system more flexible.
So what I'm saying is that disregarded stop is kind of a misnomer. They